Tuesday again. Welcome back. No brushers. It's Tamara Grand here and my co-host Barb Reed. We are chatting with a guest today. It's our weekly art chat. We would love to know that you're here and who you are and, of course, what the weather is like on your part of the world. Let's just grab Barb. Let's go. Barb, are you there? It's really cold in Vancouver. Freezing cold in Vancouver. How are
I can top that. Are we talking weather?
Oh, of course. Yes, we've got Seattle here. It's probably cold in Seattle too. We've got an Arctic outflow on the west coast.
Oh, okay. It is pouring rain in southern Ontario, and the rain is pelting against the side of the windows here. So I don't know if you can hear it. And then the temperatures are going to plummet. So all of this is going to turn to ice, which will be loads of fun.
Oh,
I can't wait to be out on the sidewalk after. Yeah.
Douglas says snowy in Seattle. We don't get that much snow out in the Pacific Northwest, and it's been a year. Although I really feel like we shouldn't be complaining about cold and snow, especially when we identify where our guest is from today.
Yeah, that's right.
And
we're in three time zones. Aren't we?
3 time zones, 3 provinces and 3 time zones. Yeah. And I noticed somebody pointed out Shrewsbury in the UK, all the crazy storms and the crazy weather that they're having there. I've been watching some of that on TV.
Yeah. Oh,
it's been nuts. Yeah. So I can't hear your rain. So you can probably see my sunshine now. I've got beautiful sunshine
kind of.
here. Kind of. It's the ring light that's detracting from the sunlight.
Yeah. That's it. My ring light is providing sunshine today because that's all I'm getting.
Yes. And you know what? Just a couple of quick pieces of housekeeping. We just got asked, will we save this and turn on the captions? We always save it. It always goes to my feed and then now Barb's feed and her guides and our series. And we have been turning on the captions lately as they've been saved because I think that's a pretty new thing for lives to be able to save the captions. So it'll all be there unless Instagram foils us, as sometimes they do. You guys know sometimes they don't post what you want them to post. So we always try to save, and we always are now trying to do captions for you guys. So if you're watching us on the replay, you'll be able to see them and you'll know that it's been saved because it's a replay.
Exactly.
There we go.
Are we ready to bring on our guest?
I think we are. We have a guest today. Barb's going to introduce her while I just go and grab her.
Okay. Apologies, JoAnn, if I butcher your last name. I think it's JoAnn Godenir. Did I get that right, JoAnn?
Hi, JoAnn.
Hi. Did I butcher your last name, JoAnn? Is it Godenir?
It's Godenir.
So Godenir. Close. Godenir. Okay. Godenir.
But it's spelled Godenir, so.
Okay. Understandable.
All right.
Error on my part. So how's
you can
Calgary?
Call me the wrong thing.
Oh.
You can get even and call me by the wrong name. That's fine.
I'm going to do that. Yeah. What's life like in Calgary today? We always talk weather at the beginning.
Yes, I know. And as I was listening, I was thinking, Tamara, it is not cold in Vancouver.
As I was saying that, I was thinking, I better be careful there.
I think it's minus 26 here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's frosty. It's frosty, but you know, like this weekend, we got this beautiful blanket of white snow. And so it's super sunny in Calgary, and we have this crisp blanket, and it looks so pretty. The sky's blue, and so it's cold, but it's very pretty. So
okay, all right.
Yeah, like that.
You guys win for sunshine in the winter. If it has to be cold in Vancouver, it's so gray and rainy that we, you know, it's not super cold, but it doesn't feel very pleasing. The sunshine kind of really does make you feel better about the temperatures.
Yeah, we get a lot of sun here in Calgary, so. It's good.
Nice. Well, we are so excited to have you on. I have to tell you, I absolutely adore your work. Your paintings there's a side of me that thinks if I could paint that beautifully and that precise with those gorgeous glowing colors, I'd be in seventh heaven. So,
thank you. Thank you very much.
That's my gushing. No, I'm a huge fan.
Thank you. Well,
we're dying to dive in.
I do follow your guys' work as well. And I think, Barbara, that's how we sort of have connected, is just following each other's work and admiring each other's work. And I can't believe how much your work in particular has changed from when you were staying in the cabin.
Oh, yes.
To say, like, what a difference your surroundings make. Okay? Like,
I'm a sponge. I'm a sponge. I cannot avoid it. So maybe I need to live in a more colorful place though right now. And maybe my color palette will.
You need to go to Mexico or Santa Fe or something where all the bright, vibrant, saturated, warm colors are.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
So usually, JoAnn, when we start, we kind of get a little bit of a backstory on the artist who we're interviewing. So can you share a little bit about kind of how you came to art making? Have you done this like forever? I'm not even sure actually too much about the background.
No, I haven't done it forever. I mean, I was an artsy kid, so I was always, you know, but I was more dancing and singing and acting and things like that.
Oh yeah.
But I did, you know, I did do art sort of, and I've always been doing creative things my whole life. But when it came time to go to university, I decided to get serious and get a sociology degrey for some reason. I thought at one point I thought I should be a lawyer. So
wow.
I know. I still think that would be an interesting career, but like I said, I was always creating, and so after university I got a job. I worked in telecom for 10 years, and then I decided I was going to go back and get my fine arts degree, because I had taken a lot of fine arts classes in university, but I wasn't able to finish that degree. I had some family obligations, and then I had kids and was busy with kids, and I just started painting, I guess, on the side, and then, you know, as I painted, I got a little bit better, and I would sell paintings to people that I knew and family. But really, it was when I took Nick Wilton's course that everything changed. Right. Everything started clicking, and everything changed for me. So yeah, and that's only in the last couple of years. Yeah.
And that's how you two guys know each other, though, too, right? There's a connection there as well. Yeah.
Right.
So have you done CVP once or more than once, or?
I did it in 2020, and I'm going to do it again this year.
Okay. Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, honestly, when we had Nick on a couple of weeks ago,
I know,
and we said to him, we have referenced him in like every conversation that we've had, and even artists who didn't necessarily take CVP, he seems to be just, you know, in everybody's consciousness these days, and just his free workshop and all of that good stuff. So I think I had learned a lot of technique classes and, you know, different things, and I was trying them out in my studio, but it wasn't until I took that comprehensive course that everything sort of clicked and came together. A lot of like information he shared about color was huge for me, and learning about design in the way that he teaches it was it just changed things for me. So I'm curious, have you always painted the way that you do now? I didn't go way back in your feed, but you've got a very recognizable style.
I did not. I have painted everything that you can think of to paint. I feel like I've painted it. I've painted vases. I'm from the prairies, so I went through an elevator phase. So I was painting grain elevators.
Oh.
And I loved painting the grain elevators. They were really colorful, and they were well received here. And then I painted my dog, and then a lot of people wanted dog paintings. And I had to, you know, people love paintings of their dogs, which is great, but I'm like, I can't paint dogs forever. I have to. I didn't really, for a long time, I painted what was outside, you know, like representational work. And when I decided to go and learn about abstract art, that's when I sort of found out, no, I have to turn inside. And that's when art became really fulfilling.
Different, isn't it?
Sure.
Very different. It's very, very different. Yeah.
So what's the genesis, or what's the origin story behind the work that you're doing right now? Because so Barb and I have had lots of conversations about organization and spreadsheets and rules and structure.
Spreadsheet's
and I
better though, Tamara.
I fall on one end of that continuum, and Barbara falls on the other end of that continuum.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
It's great, isn't it? The thing that I love so much about your work is I love that structure, but I love the fact that within the structure, there's still places to visually discover things. That's what's so interesting to me about it. So I just would love to know how long you've been painting like this, or what was the initial thing that got you going on these kinds of paintings?
It was a lot of things. It was coming out of that abstract course and looking inward and looking at my own life. And like I said, I grew up in Saskatchewan, and my mother had always sewn, like my whole life. My mom would sew our dance costumes and our Halloween costumes. And as we got older, she turned to quilting.
Okay.
And I remember, going to the quilt store with her and picking out patterns and discussing fabrics and what would go well together. If you had a bold fabric, you might want to pick something a little more subtle. And I just remember watching her sew in her sewing room at night, and she would get me to press the seams. Like, she would sew the squares and I would press them open. And I gotta tell you, like, pressing that seam, and it was so satisfying. So there's something about straight lines that I'm just like, oh yeah.
I was gonna say, that's the beginning of the tape, right?
Yeah. So then, after I completed CVP, I just came out to my studio and I decided, I'm like, I'm just gonna make a painting for myself. And that's just sort of what came out of me, was these stripes. But at the same time, another thing was happening was that the pandemic was starting. And so I was used to having stretches of time to paint, but my kids were sent home from school. And so I wasn't able to go out and have these, beautiful 4-hour sessions of painting. So I had to be at home, and I would set both my kids up in their respective spaces with their computers and, get them on their Zoom calls. And then I would very quickly be like, okay, I have an hour. And I would run downstairs and run out to my studio, which is in my backyard. And I knew I had an hour. So I had these very short time blocks that I had to deal with. And I didn't know for how long that was going to be. So I knew I could not have I couldn't just go into my studio and then start thinking about what I want to do. And I think that background of quilting and my mother, I just sort of took that unconsciously, and I thought, okay, no, I'm gonna do a bit of work on the pattern first. So I knew my pattern before I came in, not the end result, but I had sketched out a pattern. I pre-picked my colors so that in these blocks of time that I had, like Nick says, little and often, I could come out and just work, and then go back in the house, and somebody was usually wanting me within an hour or so. So I get them set up, and I sort of did that for a lot of the pandemic while they were home, and off and on as they were sent home. And that's it. So it was kind of these things that came together.
Interesting.
Well, you can see the quilting influence, right? With some of the grid-like structure that you use, although the recent ones you're doing have really moved away from that into more like linear, very, very strong compositions within, the framework.
Yeah, they like the other paintings are, I actually do them very quilt like. I do the squares simultaneously, but individually, and then knit them together. But these new paintings that you kind of see behind me, those again speak to my prairie roots. So I don't know, if you think of flying in an airplane and looking down, it's it's sort of patchworky when you look at the farmers' fields, and I've always loved those, just the lines that are created when they harvest and, that kind of thing in the field. So these are very much influenced by that.
Yeah. And the colors feel that way too. Right?
Yeah.
They really evoke that. They are definitely.
Yeah.
Earthy, but with something else. Like there's, that's what I love, is when you look really closely, you can see this underpainting kind of pushing its way through that beautiful precision that you have, which I just find so delicious to look at. It's like this little bit of chaos next to this really, really surgical straight edge with the solid color. That's so beautiful.
Thank you very much. There's a lot of layers on these. I start with a couple layers of collage. I put spray paint on, and then just put paint right over it, and then sand it back, and that's why you get these like sort of these pops of neon coming through. So that's all
Yeah.
sanding back. And, if you do collage at all, like when you sand collage, sometimes things happen that you're like, but you just have to go with it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I also
Oh,
carve and
yes.
paint, like with different tools that I can find and create some texture that way. So,
so your underpaintings, are you thinking about what the structure is going to be on top when you're doing them, or is it like fast and furious and free and just
yeah,
that's great.
I just do it, and it's really fun. And I love spray painting. Like it's not easy when it's minus 25.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
No.
it's a lot harder. So, but it's still fun.
Mm-hmm.
So is that the neon? Are you using like a neon spray paint?
Yeah,
Ah,
I usually spray paint.
I wondered.
Yeah, it's polka dots, and then I do take black paint as well, and I have like some letter and number stencils that I'll put on there as well. Yeah, and I love going to old bookstores and finding things that I can collage with, and they come through. If you look really close, you can see like the comic books and the different things that are in there. So
such an interesting combination.
It is. And so are you on wood? Are you on wood panels then, not canvas?
Yeah.
If you're doing a lot of sanding and collaging,
yeah. When I did representational work, it was all on canvas, but I love being able to carve back and sand, and so I kind of love working with wood right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can stand on those things. I've like stood on panels.
I've had to walk on them too.
Yeah. Canvas, not so much. Very different.
It's actually really feels much safer to ship them, doesn't it, than shipping canvas work?
It does, yeah. And I put it like, I love finishing. Like I love the paintings, but I also love finishing. So I just love putting like sort of a thick layer over top. And then they even have that hardiness to that, and sort of this. It has a visual thing, like the painting almost looks underneath the finish, if that makes sense.
Oh. Is it a resin? Are you using resin, or is it just
I don't use resin. I used to use self-leveling clear gel, and I was running into problems with that. So I actually use a pouring medium, like just a clear pouring medium.
Oh.
And I may do a couple coats of that, and it makes it super glossy.
Right.
And so then I put cold wax on top of that and buff it out, and it kind of gives it that satin finish.
Right.
Never used the pouring medium before, so.
Oh, it's really good. You just can't put it on too thick, or it's called crazing. It sort of cracks.
Right.
So if you put it on thin, and if you want it thicker, you just have to do coats and wait a day or two in between.
Do you ever do anything special to your edges to protect them so that it doesn't drip over the side? Because I've always seen it when people do them inside those pouring boards, right?
Yeah, I just tape the sides. Like I just put a bit of a lip of a tape on the side, and but there's a lot of it on my floor and on my drop sheets. you pour it on, and it's thick, so then you sort of have to tip it. I always have a bucket there, and I tip it, and it will pour out into the bucket, and so it's a lot of tilting and that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I need a video. You need to video this. I'm really into artist process videos these days.
It would be very ungraceful. It's very ungraceful.
I bet.
And there might be a few swears in there too.
I don't think I can do it in the condo. There's so many things I can't do in the condo.
Spray paint. You can't spray paint in the condo.
I'm not even sure I could take it out on the balcony because it'll hit stuff. Like there must be some spray over right when you do it. Overspray.
Oh yeah. Hey, we've got a question. I'm just going to pull it up. So Douglas is asking, do you build your own canvas or your own? She uses frames. She uses boards. Do you build them yourself?
I do not.
You do not.
And some artists do. I'm a very busy mom. I have two teens. One is autistic and transgender, and so I have my hands full in the mothering department. So when I'm painting, I try to stick to painting.
Yeah,
gotcha.
So I don't have time to build canvases and things like that. So I just stick to it, and I don't really that's not my wheelhouse. So I'm just going to stick to buying them, and I have a really great place in Calgary who has reasonably priced panels that work great. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
So are
Yeah,
you
there's
showing
some good ones out there. Yeah.
your work anywhere right now?
I am, and I'm showing at a gallery in town called the Christine Clausen Gallery,
Okay.
and a similar philosophy with that. Like I just at this point in my life don't have time to be, marketing and selling and wrapping up paintings and shipping them. So when the opportunity with Christine arose, I thought this is great because then I can spend more time painting and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Because I mean, even if you're in a gallery, there's so many things to do as an artist that aren't painting, that you really have to juggle your time. So
I hate the packaging and shipping.
yeah,
Just
and I love being in a gallery. Like I'm
yeah.
happy. I'm happy to give Christine
Yeah.
money because she does so many things that I just
Yeah.
I don't have the time to do. So
Yeah. Now, do you have a website?
I do. My website is www.joanngodenir.net. So my name is spelled JoAnn. There's no E.
Yes.
And my last name is Godenir.
Yeah.
And .com. Sorry, I think I said .net.
.com. You said .net. Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So
I'll
we
put
post
link
that,
up.
right?
We post that.
Yeah.
We post
Oh,
all that. Yeah.
okay.
I do show notes. We're trying to be really professional.
You are. I'm impressed.
It's tough.
I'm sure you guys are learning a lot through this, though. I'm sure you're learning a ton.
We are, and we just really love being able to chat with people. Like, we've all spent so much time on our own, and texting is great, and responding on Instagram to people's things is great, but having these conversations and getting to know people that, we may have just met in passing online for me, has been probably the highlight of the pandemic.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree. And I mean, think about it. Like we're in 3 different time zones having this conversation. Yeah. So that's, that's one of the really great things about how this has all kind of played out for us. Oh, so I wish I could see those paintings behind you, like right up close. Are you using, do you use house paints ever with it? Or are you strictly using acrylic paints or?
I sort of do a mix. I do a mix.
Okay.
Sometimes I use house paint. Sometimes it really depends on what I'm starting with and what colors are inspiring me and where can I find those colors or can I make them. So yeah, it's just kind of a mix. It's kind of
because you achieve such a flatness with those strong colors. Right. Like there's no brush strokes. There's nothing there other than this just gorgeous flatness.
Yeah, so what I do, I was making a video last night, so I will post this. But I sort of layer on the paint really thick, almost like I'm icing a cake. Like I use a palette knife, and so it's quite thick. And then I take, I think drywallers use it. It's like a putty knife, like a metal putty knife, and I'll scrape over that very gently a couple times, and it just leaves you with that very flat surface. And so that's a great trick. I do that with all my, like whether it's a big section like that, and I'll tell you those big sections, that's a challenge. That is a challenge to get. That takes the work. Yeah. But even with the stripes, I don't paint on the stripes. I tape it and then I do the same process, just scraping. Oh, okay. Yeah, so that there's sort of this, just like a thin layer of paint is what's left. But yeah.
Great. So you go through a lot of painter's tape.
I go through a ton of tape. But the only painter's tape I use is the purple, the delicate tape from Home Depot. Okay. It's like, I don't know if it's frog tape or just a painter's tape, but it's purple. And it's for delicate. Because I was finding the other one was taking up too much paint. Okay. Right. And then, for my thinner lines, to get those really crisp edges, I now go to automotive. Like I get it from an auto body supply store. Yeah. And so they have a tape that they use for detailing cars. So that's what I use.
Oh, that's a great tip.
Yeah. Yeah. They're good. And I put the tape down, and a lot of people know this trick. If you don't know the trick, this is a great trick. You lay your tape down and then you just paint a thin layer on the edge of any kind of medium. So it could be gloss medium or matte medium. And then when you take the tape up, you get a really crisp edge. Yeah.
I learned that in a Judy Woods free course I took last year. It was a game changer for me because I was always getting bleeding underneath my tape.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I like to create a crisp edge, and sometimes I'll put different colors of paint on top of each other. I like to sand it back. So I don't like all my lines to be this like crisp, you know, I don't want it to look like a machine made it. But I like the crisp line to start with, and then I'll wreck it after, because there's a difference between that and bleeding.
Yes.
Right. For sure.
You can kind of blur it a bit with sandpaper. And do you use the Straightedge? Well, my painter's tool's by the sink. You know the Straightedge painter's tool ever? There it is.
I did with some of my other abstracts, but not in this process. No, it's either like tape or I'm just painting that loose surface.
Right. I find the painter edge is usually too short, or I drag it away and botch it. Like, it's fine if you want not to have a perfect edge, but
no, I'm in love with tape.
Do you ever use it as a medium in your work?
Oh,
you have all this great tape that you've covered with paint that could be used as collage.
Yeah, and you know, that's a really good idea. That's a great. I have a
save your tape.
Like when you paint with tape, it's called hard edging. Like it's hard edge painting. So I have a friend in Calgary who is also a hard edge painter, and I always throw my tape away at the end of the day. But she creates she has these massive. She calls them her tape monsters, and they'll be as big as a chair. Of just like they're these like, and then she does crazy. She's like, oh yeah, at Halloween that will be the body of their spider for lawn, and you know, she's extremely creative with her tape. So
this is what I do with mine. I cover my sketchbooks.
Oh, hey, I love that. Look at that.
Just
so pretty.
You know, you end up with more tape than sketchbooks, so that becomes a problem after a while.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. So what's next? What are you working on? The work that's behind you, are you continuing along with those ideas, or have you got something that you're thinking about, especially with CVP coming up, right? That's an opportunity to
really stretch out. Yes. I know I'm looking forward to CVP, and they've made some changes, so I'm pretty excited about this year. But I have been working on and have to continue working on. I have a show coming up at the Christine Classic Gallery, and that it starts just the very end of April and into May. So it's a solo show. It's my first solo show.
How exciting.
Congratulations.
Yeah, big congratulations. So the pieces behind you will be part of the show?
Yes, and then there's some of my, like the quilt-like pieces. There's lots of those as well. Yeah.
Have you ever quilted? I have to ask the question. Did you ever quilt with your mom?
I don't have the patience to quilt. Like, I don't have I do know how to sew. My mom definitely didn't let me leave home without learning that. But I don't have the patience for. And you know what? I know I paint a lot of straight lines and I love them, but I'm not an exact person. I'm a terrible baker. I can't, you know, I'm more of a soup maker, like, you know, dash.
Cooking versus baking are two very different things, right?
Science versus art.
It's almost curious that I paint these stripes, because I'm like, I'm not really this exact person. But what's interesting is I find the more chaotic my outside of the studio life is, I when I look back at paintings, I'm like, oh, look how tight that painting was and how precise that painting was. So you wonder, like, psychologically, what's going on there?
Well, it's the balance, right? Like, I always think that what comes out in our art often is the opposite of what's going on in our life.
Yeah.
And it's what we need. It's maybe what we're missing in the day-to-day. So I don't know.
Well, and it's definitely true that, you know, what's happening in my life is showing up here. And they're almost self-portrait like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like that's what's happening. And visually people will see different things in it, but I know when I'm painting it and when it's done, I know what I see and where it came from. And it definitely doesn't come out of nowhere. It's reflective of my life. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And what's your color inspiration? Because I find your colors so unusual and such striking combinations that you pick that you might not think of putting those colors together, but they work.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's a color, learning about colors is this ongoing process for me.
Yeah.
But I do find it fascinating what you can do with color and how you can bring certain colors alive and, you know, all just by changing the color next to them.
Yes.
So I find that fascinating. But everywhere I go, I'm always looking for interesting color combinations. But a lot of my bold colors, I love the big fashion houses like Gucci and, you know, Versace. They always have these crazy colors. So I'll pick out a couple of those colors and say, like, I love this deep teal, you know, and then they've paired it with, you know, sort of this brown color. Well, what can I put with that that's going to make it make sense? You know, so it's a little bit of spotting color combinations. It could be on a sign I see or in a magazine or, you know, it could be from anywhere. And then using what I know about color to kind of create a palette that way.
Yeah, because your colors feel very current. There's something really modern. I mean, it's one of those vague words, but there is something really current. They feel very contemporary, the colors, you know, different, but you know, like I said, your colors just blow me away. That's my goal. Maybe that's my goal with CBP is to
this year start this on color.
You know, I have this thing, and I don't know where it comes from, but I love taking sort of an ugly color and making it work, you know, like, so everyone loves red. Everyone loves like a cherry red. You know, there's cherry red cars and cherry red lipstick. So, but I was like, I'm going to take a tomato red that not everyone loves.
Right.
How can I make that tomato red work? Like it's like taking a little ugly duckling and how can I make that sing? I find that an interesting challenge.
Well, I remember when I was teaching art to little kids, we would do things and I would always say to them, include one ugly color in there. Just something hideous that will all of a sudden make the other colors look even better. So there's definitely something to that, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I love it.
So what's your home decor like? Do you paint your walls in bright, bold colors, or are you neutral
White
and
walls.
then use the paintings to pop?
Yeah, every wall in my house is white.
Oh!
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. But yeah, I love wallpaper, so I do have some wallpaper in there as well. But I live in a fairly modern house, so the only problem is it doesn't have enough walls. I need more walls.
Yeah.
That is an ongoing problem for all of us, I think.
Yeah,
Barbara too.
We're all windows. We're all windows here.
We live in this, you know, we all want great rooms and things like that. And so we are having less and less and less walls.
Right.
Which is a problem when you want to hang art.
Yeah, for sure.
Can't really have a wall of, gorgeous paintings all working together.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love finding unique art and putting it up in the house. And there's something really special about buying a piece of art, I think.
Yes.
If you've never done it, I highly recommend it. It doesn't have to be an expensive piece of art. It can be something you fall in love with at a market, but just being able to walk by that every day and recalling that feeling that you had when you saw that piece of art and going through the process of talking to the artist or learning about the artist, it's just a really unique experience.
I'm an impulse art buyer. I really listen to that gut feeling when there's a piece that I like, and that's how most of the art in our house has been purchased. I just had it was something, and it was like, oh, I don't even know what it is, but I need to have that piece of art.
Yeah, and it's very different having that, walking by that every day versus just sort of something that
like a poster.
Like a poster or something that's just sort of a generic piece of art or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Here's a question for both of you. Do you have your own art hanging?
I do have some.
Some. It's often a staging area, right? So when pieces are finished and you need to get them out of the studio and you want to see them on a wall for a while before anything happens, that's where they go. The living room, upstairs, the dining room.
Well, especially preparing for a show. My studio is not that big, and I make like my quilt like paintings. Some of them are 5 feet by 5 feet, 4 feet by 4 feet, so they're big. And so right now my living room is filled with these paintings just leaning against walls. Because if I leave them in my studio, I'll get paint on them. I will, you know. So I'm finding I have to move them out, but they're not necessarily hanging in my house. But I do have my dog painting hanging in my house.
Well, and don't you find having finished work in your studio as well is distracting? Because especially if you're starting to work on maybe a new color palette or you're exploring a new idea, having that other thing sitting there is just constantly, it just infiltrates the new work that you don't necessarily want it to be a part of.
Yeah, definitely. And that it's kind of the same with selling, because I heard in the beginning when I was painting, and I would paint something that I was so proud of, and then someone would want to buy it, and it was a really tough thing for me. I'm like, I do want to sell this because there's something to be said for that experience, but at the same time, I'm like, what if I never paint anything like this again?
It'll be gone.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
but then I sort of learned that no, actually getting that out of the space, I'm like, no, then it makes room for new space, or makes room for new pieces to come, and it sort of encourages you to keep painting. Because
and you know, after you've done it for a while, that the ideas still keep coming and that you can recreate. Although sometimes there's like that pivotal piece, something that you've done that's different and that opened up some new ideas for you. Those are the ones that are hard to let go of, because I do like to be able to kind of look back and see them as sort of breadcrumbs to where things are going, right?
Yeah, and there's certain pieces, like the piece that I entered into that contest, I didn't sell it. I still have it, because I feel like I need to be able to look at it and remember what I was doing at that time. And so now before I did these paintings, I did some studies, like very small ones. And I'm like, you know what, I will keep some of those just so I remember, because you could kind of forget sometimes the energy that you've had, and looking back on that, I think is valuable. But within music, not
and 200 years from now, when they do like an immersive show of all your work, we're going to want to see all all those sketches and those early pieces, right? You never know.
Exactly. How many pieces did Picasso have? Like
thousands.
Crazy, right?
Tens of thousands. It was crazy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that many, but
the big 5 foot by 5 foot piece that you mentioned, is that one solid panel, or did you create that out of smaller pieces and then put them together almost like a quilt?
I did put that one too. So it's comprised. So all my quilt-like paintings, they're called, I called them my segment series. They're all made of they're either a 12 by 12 panel or a 16 by 16. So the 60 by 60 painting was made of 20-inch panels. And so there's 9 of them. Right. But I found, I used to just put them together from the back, and just, I would use these mending plates and just put them together. But as I got bigger and bigger, they would warp, and they wouldn't, they weren't as. So that painting is I glued the panels onto another 60 by 60 birch panel. Gotcha. Both thin, but I glued them on and then screwed them from the back to the front as well, just so it's super stable. But
yeah.
Wow.
I love it. I love it.
I know, I'm just in awe of the size.
Do you have any of your mother's quilts?
You know what? Can you believe it? No, I don't.
Because it would be such an interesting display to see your work and some of that quilt work sort of intermixed, right?
You're right. I wonder even if my mom, I'll have to ask her if she's saved any. I know we had this cabin, and a lot of the quilts were at the cabin, and she sold the cabin with everything in it. So.
Oh my gosh.
I know. My mom was not a sentimental person. Like
clearly,
she did not keep I was like, here's my art when I was 8. And she's like, great, garbage.
Off it goes. Think of the great collage it would make now. Don't you wish you had all that?
Suzanne Lawrence, question, or did you see that question about how heavy the pieces are?
How heavy it is. They are heavy. And I was concerned about that. So I actually consulted a framer as I was building these and trying to figure out what was the best way to do this. It wasn't going to hinder framing, and it wasn't going to be, too heavy. But then someone said to me, people hang cupboards from the wall and fill them with dishes.
Right.
Yes.
Don't worry about that. And I'm like, I'm just not going to worry about that. Why am I fretting over this? It's not my problem.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, they hang it on the wall and it's there and hasn't fallen over on anybody. And you just gotta, that's all. That's the art installer's job. That's not my
That's
job.
right.
And you can hire heavy muscle to move those things around. You don't have to stick it in the back of your van, right?
Yeah, I think as artists, especially starting out, we are so used to doing everything ourselves. We're such DIYers that I think that's why we start thinking that way. Well, how heavy is this going to be? Is this going to be a problem for someone to hang on their wall? And it's like, you know what? There are people that's their job to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that. So.
It's so true. I just, for the very first time, had custom panels made because I had worked on a commission and we were measuring the space and they wanted something that wasn't quite the way panels are normally made to fit in the space and cover the electrical box, right? So we're all these constraints to space. And the husband says, well, why don't we just get someone to make them? They can't be that hard to make. And I was like, ding, 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 ding. Why have I never
As long as it's not you making it, right? No.
Well, and I sourced a local place that actually does this. There are actually companies out there that do this in Burnaby, so just down the street from where I am. And I gave them my dimensions. And of course, it's more expensive than just buying them at your regular store. But clients were like, we'll pay for that. Just add that to the price of the work, and we'll get exactly what we want. And I was like, wow, this is like, I never thought of this. This is great.
Yeah, that large painting I sold to a client that, we had trouble getting it framed the way that they wanted quite a modern float frame around it. And the framer was like, this is just beyond like what I can do. And so we actually hired, like they had built a house. And so the guy who did all the finishing for their house, I worked with him and we created this great modern frame and he put it together and hung it up and it looks great.
Wow.
So
I bet it's stunning.
Yeah, there's always a solution. But it doesn't we don't have to think of all of it, right? And I think we're just so used to thinking that way.
And sometimes that solution is just outside of the place we normally go. And so we don't, as artists, like we know the art supply stores and we don't necessarily know the local handyman down the road who has all the tools and equipment and would happily make you a panel or make you a frame, right?
Yeah.
Very
Some people like to build them. We have a question. I'm just going to pop it through. Douglas again, how thick is the painting behind you, JoAnn? I think he means like the depth of the board. Yeah.
These ones, because I'm not like layering panel upon panel, these are an inch and a half.
Okay. And that one there is that a 4x4 or bigger? It's hard to tell.
This is a 3x3.
Okay.
I'm about to embark on a 4x4 of this size or this style, so I'll let you know how it goes.
I'll be watching for it.
I think the hardest part of these paintings for me is painting that large area of a solid color. It is.
Yes.
As an artist, you feel like, do I need to fill that? What do I need to put in there? What, it's like we feel we need stuff going on all over the canvas. And so I had to really get over that and be like, no, this space is okay. Although it looks like a solid color, but there's actually texture in there. So then when people come close, because, when you look at fields that aren't harvested, there's still, you can see all the lines of where the trucks drove and, there's all that. There's a lot actually going on in there. So I tried to reflect that in the paintings as well.
Right.
So that's where I think you posted a video. Is that the one behind you where you were actually scratching into it?
Yeah. I use all kinds of I have an olive pick that I use. I have all kinds of tools that I sort of scrape into.
So much fun doing that. Eh? That you can't really do on canvas. That's a little scary on canvas, but on wood it's perfect.
Yeah, on wood it's perfect. And this is there's a couple layers of paint on that because I'll put tape down and then put another layer of paint on and then rip off the the tape. So it's color. It's the same color on the same color, but if you look close, there's tape and lines in there as well.
Yes.
Yes. So what's the quiet conversation? There's the quiet conversation. Exactly right.
Quiet conversation.
Yeah. And I find that it's such an interesting concept because, and I've been thinking a lot about this simplicity versus complexity in artwork and in making our artwork. And quiet doesn't have to mean simple necessarily, right? Yeah. I think that was one thing I learned from Nick Wilton as well, that, we would make these paintings on these 12 by 12 panels. And then
I don't know if it was Nick or one of the other coaches, would be like, take this tiny little corner and like that's a painting.
Right.
So getting you to think like, oh yeah, I don't need to cram all this stuff into one painting, and you know.
Excuse me.
Oh, bless you.
Bless you.
Oh, thank you.
And also diving in, like that's where thinking about the value contrast too, that you can actually take an area that's either very, very light and there can be tons going on, but the value shifts between all those little areas in that space are so close that you don't really see it till you're right up in front of it, which I adore that. Yeah.
Me too, because there's quite like these say something from across the room and then something quite different as you move closer.
And that's what we always want,
right? Yeah,
that's what we want. But you know, and like I love that there's art all over Instagram and the internet, and I love being able to share my work in that way. But there are certain things that are missed, you know, and it's kind of sad that you can't, you know, when you now, and maybe it makes standing in front of a piece of art all that more special, because when you're standing in front of a piece of art, you're just like, look at everything that's in here and everything that you can see and all these delicious details. So
and the scale, we don't get scale when we're looking on a phone.
I do try to use those. I try to use those in situation apps so that people have a sense of scale.
But then you can't see the up close. So you need to do that combination of the detail shots. Because I love detail shots.
I do a little carousel. Like I'll do a detail shot, the shot, and then in situation. So, and I heard that carousels boost your.
They do.
Apparently. Who knows anymore?
I was just listening to Art Juice this morning, this week's episode, and Louise and Alice were talking about the in situ apps and the pros and cons of using them and all the rest of it. And they said something I thought was really brilliant. And I've done this for commission clients, but never thought of doing this for Instagram or my website, but actually putting on a little video where you can walk the client or the viewer through the painting. And so you can voice over, you can talk. It doesn't have to be really finessed, but starting from the back of the room, say, and then walking them up and moving that camera over so they could see and experience that close-up bit. I thought it was kind of brilliant. Like I do that with commission work, but I've never thought of doing that on my website. So there you go. There's a way of getting it in a more interactive way, maybe.
That is good. I'm in the process of updating my website, but for most of the paintings on there right now, I do have a Zoom feature, so people can get up and close that way. But
I like their suggestion though was, you know, we're also you can be talking about the work as you're doing that, and that's really appealing to people as well when they're just seeing your work online.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Anyways, everybody will be doing it now because everybody who listened to Art Juice this week will think it's a brilliant idea. So that'll be the new thing that's going to happen.
True enough.
That's a good idea. We'll let those new adopters like work out all the kinks and then teach us how to do it. And it'll be perfect.
Exactly.
Well, do we have more questions, Tamara? Because we're at 47 minutes.
We're getting pretty close to our hour, and I know there's probably a lot of people that are going to be going to the Art to Life party from 12 to 5 today. Did I hear about that? Are you going to that?
I am. I'm on.
I will have it.
2:50, I think. Or well, it depends on what time zone you're in. But
Are you in it?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yes.
Oh, good for you. I did it
Excellent.
2 years ago. I was one of the artists on it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I was last year. I know. I feel like a famous person today. I was like, I have 2 interviews. It's not a normal day for me. Not a normal day.
That's great though. Well, I'm waiting for my doorbell to ring because I was one of the winners last week of a prize on Wednesday. You know, Nicholas gives away stuff. I won a set of the Art to Life rainbow paints. So a six-pack paints, and UPS says they're going to arrive anytime after 11:45 to my door today. So I'm quite excited.
You got to post it. Post it.
I will. Do you know what's interesting though? So if you win a prize, you can get their paint, but you can't go on and buy their paint.
No, you can't.
From Canada.
Right.
We can't order it.
No, we can't.
But they I know, and I wondered about that they might not ship to me, but right away they sent me all the information, asked for the address, and they're like, nope, we ship wherever. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll let you know.
Yeah,
I'll let you know. It looks like a really interesting palette. It looks like very different colors for me, so that might be a fun thing to explore.
Well, we want to hear all about it when they arrive.
Absolutely.
The big reveal.
I'll do that.
I'm admiring the colors behind you, Tamara, like that purple and that green. I love that.
Thank you. That is that's an aha painting for me right now.
I love it.
Thank you. That's going places. It's got new things. It's leading in new directions.
Perfect.
Exciting direction for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Douglas says thank you, ladies. He's leaving. Bye, Douglas. Just kidding. He knows we usually wrap up by about quarter to 12 or 10 to 12. So, JoAnn, thanks so much for being with us today and sharing your process. And it's really lovely to get to know you.
Well, thanks for having me. Like, I'm so flattered, and this was a blast. So thanks so much.
Good. And we've warmed you up for the party.
Exactly.
You did. You did. Thank you.
Exactly. Well, have a great time with that. And all of our regulars, you guys know that we will save the replay. It'll be up on my channel. It'll be up on Barb's channel. We'll post outtakes. Did anyone catch a good outtake today? I'm not sticking my tongue out again today because the last week
that was last week.
And we will not
We're
make
very
JoAnn do that today. We were.
Very,
we didn't
very
do
composed.
anything too weird.
No.
But you guys can watch for those, and we'll tag you as well, JoAnn. So if you want to share in stories and let your people know so that they can see the replay, that would be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Okay, well, and have a great week.
Thanks. Enjoy the rest of the day, guys. Enjoy your weather.
Yes, whatever it may be. Okay. All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.